Tekken 8 Season 3 is genuinely worse than watching my own reflection in a dimly lit room slowly become a distorted demon which etches itself onto my brain for the rest of my life, and occasionally visits me in my dreams. Tekken 8 Season 3 is worse than watching the light leave the eyes of a small child who has just seen what real Lars gameplay looks like. Tekken 8 Season 3 probably has the ability to reanimate my dead ancestors and make them relive every terrible thing that ever happened to them over and over until Season 4 comes out. That is what we are dealing with. As we all know, Tekken 8 Season 3 did a whole lot of nothing, which is what I initially thought until I got over my rage and decided to actually read them properly. Whereas this patch wasn't as shameful as the Season 2 patch, there are changes that were made in 3.0 that basically confirms what I've been saying since Tekken 8 dropped. And that is Tekken 8 is balanced by monkeys who don't play the game. Imagine if I was like a cave miner, where I always had dirty fingernails, my wife didn't love me, and I had black lungs, and got paid minimum wage in like Siberia. And then I somehow became the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. That is kind of what we're dealing with on the Tekken dev team. This is clearly a team that is comprised of homeless Japanese individuals who forgoed regular lives to be a part of the Yakuza, only to realize that they are 120 pounds soaking wet, so they left and got rejected by society until Nakatsu-sama pulled up like All Might on Deku and offered them a job at Bandai Scamco.
Young man, you too can become a bad game dev.
In this video, I really just want to talk about a couple of characters that got changes to where I'm like, how can you as a game developer decide that this would ever be a good thing? Because at the moment, the Tekken dev team are moving like hard stock warrior ranks, bro. And you can't even get hard stock in warrior ranks. It's bad. So let's just get the elephant out of the room. King, the 300-pound Mexican grappler with 50 plus throws that the dev team didn't think had enough throws. King historically has been a character that at the very highest levels of play is a very hard character to pilot. Not so much in lower to mid ranks where he absolutely bends anyone who can't break throws over, which is everyone, but most pros have had decades of playing against the character, so they have like every inch of matchup knowledge they could ever need. Also, pre-Tekken 8, throws had so much counterplay that having a character where a large majority of their gameplay is to use throws isn't that great. It's like being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert in a boxing match. In Tekken 8, the Tekken dev team remedied these weaknesses by simply making King a 50-50 demon with Jaguar Sprint, as well as overall throw changes, heat changing throws, etc. King is just a significantly more viable character at every level of Tekken in this game. You can recognize this by watching a pro player like the John continuously fuck. You can recognize this by watching a pro player like the John brutally smoke every pro that he plays. So the devs seeing this, for some reason have decided to continuously buff Jaguar Sprint, a stance which is already one of the better mix-up stances in the game. For those of you who don't know the ins and outs, you're essentially mixing up your opponent with a fat chunky mid and unbreakable throw heat engager. This throw is technically reactable, so it's a bit different at a high level. You use the low a little more, but this is essentially what you're doing. It's a stupid stance. Jaguar Sprint is something that for some reason was buffed to be able to be cancelled out of. So essentially, you can threaten your opponent with a 50-50, have them respect it, cancel, and then do whatever the fuck you want. This is already retarded gameplay. Jaguar Sprint has once again been buffed so that you can cancel it into an evasive step, which allows you to go for an instant chain throw, which if it lands, you're now guessing, or for some godforsaken reason the king decides to cancel this evasive step into full crouch, because yeah, he can do that now, you will hold a full crouch launcher. So let me just run this down for you. You have the original Jaguar Sprint 50-50, except there's also a 50-50 on whether or not the king will cancel the 50-50, the Jaguar Sprint 50-50. There is also a chance the king will cancel into an evasive step, which requires an entirely different response, so that's a different 50-50. But if he actually gets this step off, you are once again in a 50-50. This is all the thinking that you must be doing from just a singular Jaguar Sprint. Why does this stance need to be this versatile? If you are a king player and you are not steamrolling games with just this, you are horrible because you are at such an advantage when using Jaguar Sprint. It is insane. This stance does everything. There is not a Tekken dev in existence who thought that giving this kind of versatility to a top tier would be balanced. Not a real Tekken dev. This is literally a decision made by someone who has no knowledge of the game. This change isn't something where like a dev misjudged how broken something could be. No. If you have played Tekken past ruler ranks, you would understand that King's Jaguar Sprint was already one of the more broken stances in the game. There is no reason as to why this stance would be getting buffed. Someone please tell me, what one of you King mains just gave Michael Murray the sloppiest, nastiest head that man has ever received? Because why do you keep getting buffs? Why? There is no gap in the stance's offense. It already has utility being able to cancel it, which even that shouldn't even be in the game. There is no real option select for this stance. There is not a single reason for this stance to be buffed other than a dev looked at it, didn't understand how good it is because they're fucking brain dead and a warrior rank, and buffed it. It is the only explanation. Like, listen to this explanation of King from the devs. Adjustments were made to temper his toolkit that had become overly reliant on regular strikes whilst preserving his strength as a character with numerous throws. As a result, his throw techniques can now be utilized more strategically. They don't play the game. King was a character who needs to have quote unquote regular strikes because your core gameplay systems, which you have been building on for the past 20 years, demand so. Throws are reactable, throws are high. This has never been an issue beforehand, so why is it one now? They don't play the game. You can never have a pure grappler in Tekken because archetypes aren't really a thing in Tekken because of the core gameplay systems. It is literally one of the most game-defining aspects of Tekken and what makes it unique. They don't play the game. Saying this makes King more strategic is genuinely one of the funniest things I've ever read, because from the lens of someone who doesn't play a lot of Tekken, this is entirely true. Like, in a vacuum, this is true, but realistically, in a game, nobody is going to mash into Jaguar Sprint because they are going to get clapped or they're going to get evaded, and nobody is going to sidestep because there's a homing throw heat engager. That's probably the worst option to run into, I can't lie. So the only option you're left with at that point that actually merits some type of reward without you really getting blown up is sit there and guess. If your opponent is forced to sit and guess 80% of the time, where is the strategy? They don't play the fucking game. They don't play the game! If you understand anything about King, you would know this character is an Oki demon, and it actually takes a lot of character knowledge to use the correct throw for what you want in every situation, because his throws will leave the opponent in all different types of positions for different types of Oki. This is a big part of King's game plan. This no longer matters because King now has a launching 1+2 throw. So the wall splatting throw King has, the one where the opponent lands face down, and the side switching throws, whatever 1+2 throws he has, are now irrelevant. I don't think this is a mix-up quite like the giant swings shining wizard thing. However, if you need a 1+2 throw, character identity and game plan no longer matters because you can just launch. And do you want to know the developer's logic behind this? This expands the attack routes that can be developed from throws, making it easier to make decisions based on the opponent's situation and positioning. Translation: here is a free launcher until you get to like Tekken King. You don't have to think, just click this. This creates more attack routes from throws. Like King's other throws just hands out candy and does no damage. What are we talking about? These devs genuinely thought that this move made King lean more into his grappler identity. They're not even aware that they're removing his identity. These idiots don't play the game. They don't play the game. Now let's look at Lars. I think everyone's main gripe with Lars is that he is a character that basically gets free offense. He has that full screen homing mid that's +5 and he basically takes no risk on any of his moves. They're all like -13 and shit. It's just super frustrating when you go against a Lars. However, according to these devs, his offensive options were streamlined and adjustments were made to make it easier to suppress lateral movement at close range. Can you believe that, guys? For those of you who don't know, The one way that you beat Lars is if he doesn't have frames when he goes into, I think it's silent entry, you know, the regular stance, you can basically sidestep everything that he does. This meant the Lars player actually had to land something to 50-50, which isn't hard, by the way. They've now changed that. Do you remember when I said in a vacuum what these devs are saying is true? But to anyone who has played past ruler ranks, you know this stuff is retarded. This is a character weakness, and it's barely a weakness at that. But wait guys, the funniest part is next. By making it easier to choose the appropriate move for the situation, Lars can now more readily create offensive opportunities. The character, who every single person playing this game will tell you is able to create offense from literally thin air, is only now able to create offense. The character whose mains are well known to not possess a single iota of fundamentals because their character plays the game for them is now only able to create offense. What the fuck am I reading? What the fuck am I reading, guys? Guys, if you want to reveal to me that the entire time I've been posting on this channel I've actually been locked up in an insane asylum, please tell me, because what the fuck do you mean when you say Lars can now readily create offensive opportunities? You know, the only other statement that would have been funnier than this would be that King has trouble attacking with throws, so we have given him a launching throw. Oh wait. Law is a character that doesn't take very much brain cells to realize is completely broken. Another character where he starts 50-50 is completely busted. There is no hole in the offense and he takes absolutely no risk from using his stance bullshit. If your opponent respects your mix, he can also cancel his stance bullshit into a slide mix-up. So once again, a 50-50 within a 50-50. I forgot to add that every single human being in this game must respect his stance bullshit because he also has the most broken move imaginable to go into this stance, and while standing 3, this move is plus 16 on block. Plus 16 on block. He has ridiculous heat. Safe nunchucks and a launching 10 frame jab string should be all I need to say. This character needed to be nerfed into the ground. This character was a meme. He's not real, bro. Let's see what the Tekken team had to say about him. His available options in neutral were streamlined. Oh, we've never heard that before, guys, have we? That's what happens when you make every single character in your game a stance demon. While several overly dominant offensive sequences were toned down, a new move was added. We're going to look at this new move in a second, but let's just see where they nerfed the overly dominant offensive sequences. He lost the wall splatting heat smash, like everyone lost, and there's no other nerf. His nunchuck reduced the distance from the opponent on block. So every character can now punish a punishable move. The overly dominant offensive sequences that these devs thought was a problem was nunchucks occasionally being safe when they're already safe in heat. I would also like to add that they buffed nunchucks. They consume less heat. The devs thought that this move was so problematic, they buffed them. What they didn't find problematic was the plus 16 high. Nunchucks. In fact, they buffed every nunchuck move. They all use less heat. Law is a character that is kind of linear, so to reduce overly dominant offensive sequences, they gave Law a homing high, which is plus 1 on block. If you think that plus 1 isn't a lot, Law in heat has a 10 frame hit confirmable launcher. This apparently was not an overly dominant offensive sequence. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they also buffed Law's stance bullshit. Law is a character that clicks while standing 3 to go into stance of plus 16 where you can't step because you're minus 16, and then you are faced with either a plus 3 high, which was just buffed. It used to be minus 1, but minus 1 was too dominant, so they made it plus 3 because being plus is bad apparently. This move is also plus 7 on hit and goes back into stance for another 50-50. A plus 7 high, which will also wall splat. A plus 1 on block, counter hit launching high. A plus 3 homing high. A safe mid heat engager. A minus 2 on block slow mid or a minus 13 low. That is chunky and on hit is plus 6 and tracks very well. There is no risk associated with this stance, yet it just got buffed. The devs literally lied on the patch notes. They literally lied. What dominant offensive sequence was removed? You just added further dominant sequences. Was this a typo or something? Did you mean to say we've buffed Law because we're retarded and want broken characters? I want to say that they don't play the game, but at this point, their devs might just be outsourcing their work to prisoners, taking 2-week coding courses to help them with their good behavior so they can see sunlight before they're 60. We have gotten to such a point. The Tekken devs are assuming that we cannot read, which to be honest is a pretty fair assumption to make about Tekken 8 players. I didn't read the patch notes at first, but now, let's get on to the final part of the video. On the morning of me making this video, we just got an emergency announcement from the Tekken dev team. I'll put it here so you can read it if you want, but I really want to pay attention to where it says, we implemented adjustments aimed at maintaining each character's individuality whilst reducing excessive rewards, particularly those stemming from the heat system and character-specific enhanced states, in order to improve overall balance. So how they went about doing this is by doing nothing to characters' heat outside of the universal change, which on its own isn't that big a deal, and buff characters' regular states. Okay, very good. I am sure this is some type of progressive thinking. Moving forward, we will continue to pursue a battle experience where offense and defense are balanced around the heat system, allowing players to engage in meaningful mind games and decision making against their opponents, while maintaining the direction of the version 3.0 adjustments. We will continue addressing elements that still result in excessive rewards or one-sided gameplay. It's over, bro. It's done. The game is done. The game is done, bro. If you are one of these guys that are on the fence about quitting Tekken because you have Stockholm Syndrome, just quit, bro. It literally says here, they are going to balance the game around heat so players can engage in meaningful mind games. This is just code for, we're not changing the game, bitch ass gay boy. I was initially going to say, how can you fix the game when you don't even know what's wrong with it? But here you go, I guess. This is the developer transparency we all asked for, right guys? Imagine being one of those dudes in the YouTube comments calling people like me doomers when the devs are literally confirming our thoughts. Anyways, this upcoming emergency patch is to fix some of the game-breaking bugs in the game. I'm guessing the big ones are Feng Infinite Heat Smash. You know, having a +1,000,000 move that breaks armor doesn't seem like good balancing when you can spam it 15 times, does it? Not going to ask why they can even do it once. I wouldn't want to make a dev's brain explode. Heihachi can also spam the charged version of his new move without any charge because the devs don't play their game and missed a mistake that would have literally taken 3 seconds to figure out. I could have given my PS5 DualShock controller to a fetus and it would have been spamming this move within seconds. And of course the most ridiculous one is Jack 8 Stomp, which is literally a bug from season 2, and these devs are so fucking incompetent, it is once again a bug. What game, guys, have you ever played where you got the sequel of a bug? Insane, bro. I'm just waiting on the fucking trilogy. But you know, these guys don't play the game, so there you go. Guys, if you liked the video, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit, and until next time, guys. And now you've become a part of me. You'll always be right here. You've become a part of me. You'll always see right here. I can't separate myself from part of